Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 2016 Global Women's Leadership Summit session with Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. Before we begin, we want to just check to make sure you can hear me, and please go ahead and let Marshall know where you're dialing in from today. While you're doing that, I'll introduce myself. This is Mary Lagakis Engel, and I am the co-founder and managing director of the Global Women's Leadership Summit. I am thrilled to have you all here with us today for this very special keynote presentation with Marshall. Marshall, just so you know where people are dialing in from, we have Egypt, Tokyo, all across the US, all across Canada, Switzerland, Paris, Kenya, Nairobi, and people are just continuing. London, Taiwan. My friend, we have people from everywhere on this event with you today. So quick introductions here, everyone. The Global Women's Leadership Summit, also known as GWALS for short, is the world's largest online women's leadership conference with a simple mission: to dramatically impact the leadership capability and prosperity of over 5 million women leaders by 2020. This year, our theme is Step Forward, because leaning in was only the beginning. We have a number of ways for even more women to step forward during this summit. We've made it easier for you to step forward and participate from anywhere because GWALS is mobile. Download the free GoToWebinar app to your mobile device so you can participate in every session from wherever you are. You can also step forward as a GWALS ambassador and be one of those women who helps even more women succeed. The gifts for ambassadors are unbelievable. You could qualify for a $10,000 private coaching program. Register to be an ambassador at www.gwals.com/ambassador-program, and that link is coming up in your chat box. A couple of quick housekeeping items. Please engage, be truly present, and give Marshall your full attention. Turn off distractions, including cell phones and desktop notifications, and close your door if you need to. Your questions and comments are encouraged. Marshall and I were speaking just before we got online here, and he would like you to engage with him throughout the session. So please enter your questions in the question box, enter your comments, and we will discuss them as we go. Finally, make sure you take action. As you listen to Marshall's presentation today, listen for one thing you can apply and action in the next 24 hours. I am super excited to have Marshall Goldsmith with us today. Dr. Goldsmith is the author or editor of 35 books, which have sold over 2 million copies, been translated into 30 languages, and have become bestsellers in 12 countries. His two other New York Times bestsellers are Mojo and What Got You Here Won't Get You There, the Harold Longman Award winner for Business Book of the Year. And his most recent book is Triggers, a #1 New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller. So, Marshall has written many books. He's also got many professional acknowledgments, including Harvard Business Review and Best Practice Institute World's #1 Leadership Thinker, Global Gurus, Inc. and Fast Company Magazine's World's #1 Executive Coach, Institute for Management Studies, Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Teaching, American Management Association's 50 Great Thinkers and Leaders Who Have Influenced the Field of Management over the past 80 years. I mean, the list just goes on, so I won't carry on because we've got it all in his bio online. He is a professor. His PhD is from the UCLA Anderson School of Management, where he was also the Distinguished Alumnus of the Year. And we feel tremendously grateful to have him with us today to help you develop your leadership skills. Marshall, I'm going to hand the mic over to you to greet our guests and to take them through your teaching.
Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here. I'm going to briefly introduce myself and we will begin. My name is Marshall. I'm from a small town called Valley Station, Kentucky. Went to school in Indiana, got a PhD at UCLA. Was college professor and dean when I was young, and then for almost 40 years I've done three things. One, I give talks or teach classes, and I'm honored to speak in many women's leadership programs. I give talks, and I travel all around the world. I've been to 97 countries, 11 million frequent flyer miles, and then I write and edit books and articles, which is the way I reach a lot of people. And then I'm most famous for coaching executives. My coaching clients have been CEOs, or could be CEOs of many companies, the CEO of Ford, Pfizer, Glaxo, Francis Hasselbein, the head of the Girl Scouts, just wonderful people. And I love coaching because that's where I learn so much. Now, anything else, I'm just doing a project called, it was originally called 15 Coaches. I'm going to give away everything I know to, I decided 15 people, and it's all free in honor of all the nice people who've given me so much in my life. I wanted to donate back and give it to them, and I put this on LinkedIn, and so far I have over 10,000 applications. So I'm now expanding my project to call 100 Coaches. So I'm going to donate all I know to 100 people, free lifetime mentoring, and the only payback is for them to do the same thing. So I'm very, very honored, and about half the people that I've already selected are women. So we've got a wonderful, wonderful group of women leaders as well as men leaders who have been selected. Now, what are we going to be talking about? Oh, a couple of things. One, send me an email, marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. I love getting emails. If you send me an email, I won't get back to you immediately, but I will eventually. It may take a little bit of time. And go to my website, www.marshallgoldsmith.com. I give everything away. All my material you can copy, share, download, duplicate, use in church, charity, nonprofit, use any way you want. So again, as I've grown older, my goal is to give everything away. So please, if you can use any of my material in any way, please do so. Now, what are our goals? I want to talk about a little bit of my new book, Triggers, how it works, how we're influenced by triggers, and why we don't achieve our goals, give you some practical tools that you can use back at work, and then the daily question process, a simple process that takes very little time, 3 minutes a day, is going to help you get better at almost anything. Now, some of you might be skeptical now. 3 minutes a day, cost almost nothing, help me get better at almost anything? That sounds too good to be true. Half the people that start doing this quit within 2 weeks. And they don't quit because it doesn't work. They quit because it does work. What I'm going to teach you today is going to be very easy to understand and very hard to do. Then I'm going to talk about some unique challenges in women leaders and idea of happiness and be more happy and a little less guilt. And then finally, how to apply these concepts to help you have a better life, a little bit better life. Now, what happens? I have a theory. As we journey through life, my theory is almost anyone I meet, if I interviewed you and said, you know, who's that person you want to become? You would tell me a wonderful story. Dedicated, hardworking, in perfect physical condition, great parent, great worker, great leader, great everything. But what happens in life? Millions of people around the world are disengaged, depressed, not achieving our personal goals. Many teams, organizations are dysfunctional. New Year's resolutions, by February, the gym is empty. Why do we fail on even the little things? Well, as we journey through life, we're constantly bombarded by triggers. What is a trigger? A trigger is any stimulus that may impact our behavior. It could be a sight, a sound, a word, a person. And in some cases, these triggers push us toward becoming the person that we want to be. In most cases, they push us away from becoming that person. As we journey through life, a great question, who's in control? Two schools of thought: external control. I am controlled by the world. Internal control, I control the world. And we can look at 4 different schools of thought, 4 different philosophies of control. The first one is called random walk, chaos theory. Not a lot of external or internal logic. Life is kind of a random crapshoot. The next one is called I create the world. What does that mean? Well, I'm a believer in the fact that I can create the world myself. This is epitomized by the motivational speech, which is always the same. Jimmy was tired, poor, sick, and hungry. People said he couldn't do it, couldn't find a date. Now Jimmy's rich and has 3 wives. The motivational speech is pretty much always the same, and there are always some, some story. The book, The Secret, is the epitome of internal control. If I envision it, it will happen. Well, unfortunately, I have a degree in mathematics, and the problem with all of this stuff, the motivational speech or the book, The Secret, this whole thing about I create the world by myself is called the survivor bias in research. They talk about the person who wished the cancer went away, and it did. They didn't interview the dead people. They talk about the movie star. She wanted to be a movie star, and she is. They didn't interview the waitresses in Hollywood, and they interviewed the basketball team that won. They didn't interview the losers. The problem with this I create the world is I believe if we have positive thoughts, we're going to be more likely to create a positive world. But to me, the idea that I can envision something that's automatically going to happen with no impact from the external world is just ridiculous. We're not gods. and we can't get out of getting old, getting sick, and dying. That's kind of in the cards. Well, the next theory is the opposite. The world creates me. B.S. Skinner, the famous Harvard psychologist, believed in this, and he wrote a book called Beyond Freedom and Dignity, and his whole premise is we are just the subject of triggers. We're like the Pavlovian dogs as we wander through life, and those triggers in the environment create us. Well, what I believe and what I talk about in my book, Triggers, is called mutual creation. I am creating my world. I'm not a victim. I'm not hopeless. I'm not powerless. And at the same time, I'm not God. Triggers in my world are simultaneously creating me. I'm creating the world, and it is creating me. What is fate? As we journey through life, fate is the hand of cards we've been dealt. And at any second in time, you cannot change the hand. The one thing in life that we cannot change is the past. Choice, though, is how we play the hand. That is what we can control. Typically, as we journey through life, there is a trigger. The trigger leads to an impulse. The impulse leads to behavior. And in essence, the trigger starts controlling us. We start becoming created by our world. Here's the goal of my book, and a little bit the goal of today. There's still going to be triggers. Still triggers in your environment. You will still have impulses. This is not the emotional control seminar. On the other hand, the goal is to become aware of what's going on. And through this awareness, realize I have a choice. I have a choice. I don't have to just respond to this trigger. I have a choice. And then our behavior becomes a function of that choice, not a function of the impulse. Dealing with triggers, the negative case study. I teach my class at Dartmouth, and I talk about the folly of trying to win all the time, always trying to be right. And I have a funny case study that goes like this. Imagine, you have a hard day, under so much pressure. You go home, your husband, wife, or partner is there, and the other person says, I had such a hard day today. I had such a tough day. Well, if we're not careful, what do we say? You had a hard day. You had a hard day. Do you have any idea what I had to put up with today? Do you think you had a hard day? We're so competitive, we have to prove we're more miserable than people we live with. Well, that trigger, we're under stress. That trigger produces an impulse. Impulse leads to behavior. That's the negative case study. The positive case study. I got an email from a gentleman who went to my class at Dartmouth. I'm a professor of management practice at the Dartmouth Tech School. I got an email a few years ago that's in my book, Trigger. And if any of you would send me such an email after today, I would be proud of today. He said, I wanted to send you an email today and say thank you. He said, I know you don't remember me. I was in your class 5 years ago. He said, yesterday my wife called and was having a terrible day, and she was talking about what an awful day she was having. I was just getting ready to point out how her problems paled in significance to my own. He said, for some reason I started breathing, and I remembered your course, and I thought, this is my wife. This is not the enemy. He said, I just listened, and I said, thank you for all that you have done for the family. I love you. Then he said, I went home, spent $25, bought her some flowers, and I gave her the flowers, and I said, I love you. He said, that was the best $25 I've ever spent. Thank you very much. Well, that's the whole goal of the book, and maybe a little bit of the goal of today. You're still going to have triggers. You're still going to have that impulse, that reaction. If we can just stop and breathe, think for a second before we talk, we're much more likely to create the world around us than be created by that world. Now, why don't people do what I teach? And get ready, by the way, for a question for everyone. People don't do what I teach. Well, years ago, my biggest client was a wonderful company called Johnson & Johnson. And I had a privilege working with the CEO at the time, Ralph Larson, all the way down to leader number 2000. And they were all asked to do some simple things at the end of my class. Pick something to improve, talk to people, follow up. Well, 98% of their leaders said, I'm going to do what Marshall just taught me. 98%. A year later, about 70% had done something, and 30% zero, not 1 minute. I'm not ashamed of these numbers. I'm proud of these numbers. 70% of 2,000 people is 1,400 people. Getting evaluated by 10 coworkers each, that's 14,000 people had a little bit better life. So I'm certainly not ashamed of that. I got to interview the people that did nothing and said, why'd you do nothing? Their answer had nothing to do with ethics, values, or integrity. They won an award that year, most ethical company in the world. They're good people. I'm sure you're good people. Had nothing to do with intelligence. They're smart. I'm sure you're smart. The reason people that did nothing had to do with a dream. It's a dream I've had for years, and I'm going to make a prediction. Many of you listening to me right now have had the same dream on a recurring basis for years. And this dream is going to describe why we don't do what we know we should do in life. Some of you are a little skeptical right now. You're thinking, he doesn't know my dreams. Don't bet against me. I bet you've had this dream. It sounds like this. I'm incredibly busy right now, given pressures of work, home, and new technology that follows me everywhere. I feel about as busy as I ever have. Sometimes I feel overcommitted. I do not tell others this, but every now and again, my life is just a little bit out of control. But you know, I'm working on some very unique and special challenges right now. And I think the worst of this is going to be over in about 4 or 5 months. And after that, I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks and get organized and spend some time with my family and begin my new healthy life program. And after that, everything is going to be different, and it will not be crazy anymore. Well, I want you to send a little comment in, and if you could tell the people how to send in a comment, I'm going to ask you a question. Yes or no? Have you ever had this dream? And the second question, how many years have you been having this same stupid dream? Is there a way we can encourage people to send in comments?
We sure can, and they've already started. There's a whole bunch of yeses. Yes, same dream for way too long. I live this dream every day, all my life, a long time. And somebody is rounding. Rena is rounding. She's saying yes, a resounding yes, 30 years.
Well, we've all kind of had that dream, and it's important to realize there's not going to be any 2 or 3 weeks, and sanity is not going to be prevailing. Tomorrow's probably going to be crazier than today. When I work with people in big companies, I say, how many of you have a boss and you have to make numbers? And people all raise their hand. I say, I'll pick on Mary over there. I say, Mary, let's imagine Mary overachieved on every number by 25%. Then I look at Mary and say, Mary, what are the odds a big boss is going to say, Mary, next year we're going to reduce those goals. Make them a little lower. Take a break, Mary. It's not going to happen. They always laugh, say, no way. The goals are going up. Then I say, raise your hand and repeat after me. My name is Mary, and it's always going to be crazy. Then I ask people, are any of you entrepreneurs? You run your own business, and somebody raise their hand. I'll say it's Joe. And I'll say, Joe, imagine you overachieved on your goals by 25%. You think you're going to lower the goals for yourself next year? They're going to go up. They always say the same, the entrepreneur. It's always going up. Then I say, repeat after me. My name is Joe, and I am going to always be crazy. Well, existentially, it doesn't matter if you're the boss, or you are the boss, or you have a boss. The goals aren't going down. We're not going to reduce the pressure on ourselves. Everything I try to teach people is positive, simple, and focused. Why? If it's not, you won't do it. Not because they're mean or bad or evil. It's because we're so busy. Now, it's okay to need help and structure. It's okay. One thing I'm very proud of in my book, Triggers, 27 top executives endorsed that book. 27 major CEOs, including CEO of the Year in the United States, number 3 CEO in the world. Frances Hesselbein, my friend, I love her, who's Peter Drucker said the greatest leader he ever met. Just wonderful, wonderful people. Aisha Evans, future CEO of Intel, who's just a spectacular leader. Well, great people. Why am I so proud? 30 years ago, no CEO would admit to having a coach. They'd be ashamed. I'm so proud that these people are now able to stand up and say, I need help, and it's okay. Well, let me give myself as an example. I'm going to share a process today called the daily question process. I pay a woman named Kate to call me on the phone every day. She called me about an hour ago. She'll call me tomorrow. She called me yesterday. She calls me every day. Every day she just listens to me read questions I wrote and provide answers I wrote. Why? Somebody said, why do you do this? Don't you know the theory about how to change behavior? I wrote the theory. So why do I pay a woman to call me every day? My name is Marshall Goldsmith. I am the world's leading executive coach. I pay a woman to call me on the phone every day just to listen to me read questions I wrote and provide answers I wrote every day. Why do I do this? My name is Marshall Goldsmith. I am too cowardly to do this by myself, and I am too undisciplined. I need help, and it's okay. It's okay. We all need help. When I teach my classes, I'll say typically, who needs to be a better listener? And a bunch of people raise their hand. I'll then call on typically some blustery guy that looks like he's never listened to anyone in his life. I'll say, Joe, how many years you been needing to be a better listener? And he'll say, oh, 40. I'll say, raise your hand and repeat after me. My name is Joe. I need to be a better listener. I'm not fixed this by myself in 40 years. Who am I kidding? I'm not going to fix this by myself in the future. I need help, and it's okay. Well, once we get over that macho, I can do everything on my own nonsense, life is so much better. You know what? You don't want you to mention anybody's names, but I'm going to ask people to send in some comments right now, and they're going to say, I need to get better at. And they're going to say, here's one thing they need to get better at. For example, I need to be a better listener. Then they're going to say, I've not fixed this by myself in years. I need help, and it's okay. I need help, and it's okay. So send in some comments right now. I need to be better at. I've not fixed this by myself in years. I need help, and it's okay. What are some of the things we're going to get from people? Do you have any comments yet?
They're starting to come in. One person says, keeping strong boundaries.
Good.
I need to be better at asset allocation, and it's okay. Personal organization, resisting adding value.
Ooh, it's one from my book.
Interesting. Yeah. Living in the moment, minimizing distractions, focusing on the big goals, to be brave, be assertive. Oh my gosh, the list keeps going.
Well, this is wonderful. Now, speaking of needing help, I need some help. I'm not making the slides move. I don't know what is going wrong. Let me see if I can figure this out. For some reason, my slides are no longer working. My name is Marshall Goldsmith. I need help, and it's okay.
I'm here for you, Marshall. I'm here for you.
Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Since I'm infinitely flexible, my slides aren't working. The good news is I do have a pretty good knowledge of the material. I can continue on, but for some reason my little cursor has stopped working.
Marshall, what I'm going to do, can you hear me?
Yes.
What I'm going to do is we're going to hand the presenter over to me, and I'll move the slides for you, okay?
Oh, perfect, even better. And if you can just read the top line on the slides, okay? Now, we've just been to it's okay to need help and structure. What is the next slide?
1 second, I'm just going to go to that.
Yes, my name is Marshall Goldsmith. I tried to move these slides by myself. Obviously, I failed. I need help. It's okay.
All right. There we go, the value of structure, Marshall.
Okay, if you look at the value of structure, there's a great book called The Checklist Manifesto, published by Dr. Atul Gawande from Harvard Medical School. In his book, The Checklist Manifesto, Dr. Gawande makes a fascinating point. If the doctor asks the nurse for a series of questions before the surgery, the odds on unneeded infection plummet and the death rate's cut by about 2/3. The huge majority of hospitals around the world do not allow the nurse to ask the doctor the questions. Why? Ego. Their ego is just too big. What's the first question? Did you wash your hands? Did you wash your hands? According to Dr. Gawande, more people have died because of the egos of surgeons than died in the Vietnam War, the Afghan War, and the Iraqi War combined. Too much ego. Well, that's the negative case study. Very important to realize that we all need help and structure, and I work with people like my friend Alan Mulally, who was the CEO of Ford, who really have used help and structure to create a huge positive difference in people's life. And once we all admit we need this kind of structure, like the checklist, life is better. What's the next slide say?
Next slide says, Alan, the Ford turnaround. Now, Marshall, there may be some slides in here that you want to skip past, so just let me know.
Yes, that's it. Yes, on that one, yes, the Ford turnaround, my friend Alan Mulally, what did he do to turn around the Ford Motor Company? He had clear structure for the way people behaved. He had clear structure for the way people behaved, and then he let this structure drive the turnaround at Ford. And so what happened is he had clear behavioral norms. He said, this is the way we're going to treat each other. He established a checklist, just like the Checklist Manifesto. And then after he established that checklist, what he did is he said, this is the way we're going to treat each other starting now. And he had something called zero defects, zero impact on zero tolerance for bad behavior. For example, if two people used a cell phone in the meeting, he'd say, is there something on the cell phone you need to share with the group? And then, for example, if two people had a side conversation, do you want to share this with the group? Basically, Alan created an environment where people learn to treat each other with respect. But what he did is he had a very clear and simple checklist to help them. He found this led to a huge success. The other thing Alan did that was amazing is he had people evaluate their performance red, yellow, green. Green is I'm on plan. Yellow is I'm not on plan, but I've got a strategy to get there. And red is I'm not on plan and I'm lost. The first meeting, they were losing, I think, $17 billion. What happened? Everyone said green. Everyone said they were on plan. Alan said, you know, that's amazing. We're all on plan and we're losing $17 billion. Maybe let's do it again. Finally, Mark Fields says, red. I'm not on plan. I don't know how to get there. My friend Alan stands up and applauds. He said, Mark, you're not on plan and you don't know how to get there. You're lost. He said, Mark, it's okay. It's okay. Then he said something I've never heard a CEO say before. He said, my name is Alan Mulally. I'm the CEO of the Ford Motor Company. He said, Mark, you're lost and you don't know how to get there. You're not on plan. It's okay. Then he said, I'm the CEO of the Ford Motor Company. And he said, Mark, I know less than you do, and that's okay too. He created an environment where it was okay to say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm lost, and it's okay. It's okay. And once he did that, the entire Ford Motor Company just started turning around, just started turning things around. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like you to kind of skip ahead on the slide to the one that says daily questions. I'd like to go to that slide that says daily questions, if you can get to that one.
We're there.
Are you there? Now I'm going to talk about the daily question process. This is a process that I promise that takes about 3 minutes a day. It's going to help you get better at almost anything, and it's going to cost you nothing. How does it work? Well, this is what I've been doing for years. Get out a spreadsheet. On one column, I'm going to ask you to write down a series of questions that represent what's most important in your life. Friends, family, direct report, colleagues. Then what I'm going to say is, have 7 boxes across, one for every day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then every day you're going to fill it out. And every question has to be answered with a yes, a no, or a number. Now, I'm going to share some of my questions, but they're not intended to be yours. One of my questions every day is, how many times yesterday did you try to prove you were right when it wasn't worth it? That's kind of hard for that old professor not to be right all the time. I've almost never got a 0 my whole life. Or did you say or do something nice for your wife, your son, your daughter, son-in-law, grandchildren? How many minutes did you write? Did you work out? Just questions about life. It is amazing how well this works. I've been doing this for years, and I can tell you, it's easy to understand. It's hard to do. Now, let's go to the next slide. I'm going to share something that my daughter Kelly just taught me, which is amazing, about active questions. Now, Kelly and I were doing work in the area of employee engagement. And we found out that almost everything in employee engagement is focused on what the company can do to engage you, and almost nothing about how you can engage yourself. Well, Kelly and I started working on this concept of active questions, and she said, Daddy, when you ask people passive questions, like do you have clear goals? Do you have meaningful work? Do you have a friend at work? And they have a negative response, they blame the environment. Kelly taught me the value of asking active questions. Questions that begin with the phrase, did I do my best to? And it is amazing how much difference this has made. If you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Here are now my first 6 daily questions. I would highly recommend you challenge yourself with these 6 questions every day. And the first one is, did I do my best to be happy? Now, it didn't say I was happy. Did I do my best to be happy? In my book, Triggers, I talk about coaching 3 medical doctors, 3 of the most brilliant people I've ever met. Dr. Jim Kim, president of World Bank, simultaneous MD and PhD with honors, Harvard Anthropology. Dr. John Noseworthy, CEO of the Mayo Clinic, and Dr. Raj Shah, head of the United States Agency for International Development. Brilliant, wonderful people, all medical doctors. All 3 individually, I asked them this question. On a typical day, how would you score on, did I do my best to be happy? All 3 had the same answer. Never dawned on me to try to be happy. Never dawned on me to try to be happy. I said, well, you're a medical doctor. Did it dawn on you you're going to die? No, yeah, they said they figured that out. I said, do you think this is a silly or trivial question? They said, no, it's a great question. I just forgot to ask it. And of course, I have the permission to use their names, but my favorite line in the book is this one. Even the greatest sharpshooter can miss a big target. Well, these are three wonderfully brilliant people. Every day they were missing a very, very big target. Number two, did I do my best to find meaning? It doesn't even say somebody gave you meaning. Did you do your best to create and find meaning yourself? Number three, did I do my best to be fully engaged? Not did the company engage me. Did I do my best to engage myself? Number four, did I do my best to build positive relationships? Not do you have a best friend at work, but were you the friend? Did I do my best to set clear goals? And did I do my best to make progress toward achieving my goals? Now, if you can go to that next slide.
Yes.
I'm going to invite all of you to participate in a 2-week study. And I'm going to give you 2 invitations. The first one, if you'd like all of my own daily questions, send me an email to Marshall with 2 L's at marshallgoldsmith.com. And all you have to say is MG Daily Questions. And now I'm going to give you an opportunity to participate in a research study. If you would like to test this out yourself for 2 weeks, you're going to get before and answer questions from us. And we're going to send you a test every day for 10 working days and ask you to fill out these 6 questions about yourself. And the results of this have been pretty amazing. Next slide. As you can see, these are the 6 questions you're going to be tested on every day. Now let me talk about the results. Next slide. So far, we have done this. The past 95 studies with 2,793 participants, what have we found? 46% of the people that do this every day say, I'm better at everything. I seem happier, more meaningful. Everything went up. 75% said I got better on at least 4 of the 6 items. 94% said I got better at least 1 of the items. 6% said no change, and less than 1% saw overall decline. Why? Every day these 6 questions get me to focus not on what I cannot change. They get me to focus on what I can change. And what is the one thing in life I can always be responsible for? The question that begins with the phrase, did I do my best? Did I do my best? The hardest question we can ever ask ourselves has 4 qualities that are totally counterintuitive. 1, you write the question. Why is it hard? You can't blame the idiot that wrote the question. Number 2, you know the answer. Why is that hard? Can't say you don't know how to do it. Number 3, you know it's important. Can't say it's trivial. And number 4, all you have to do to make a high score is try. Well, why is it so hard to do these 4 questions? Well, why is it so hard to do a question that has these 4 qualities every day? No one to blame. No place to hide. You have to take personal responsibility. You can't blame other people. Now, finally, if you go to the next slide, I'm going to talk about a unique issue for women. And that is a unique issue that women have is, I'm often asked, are there differences in leadership feedback between women and men? The answer is, yeah, there are 2 statistically significant differences. Gender difference number 1, the average woman is seen as a better leader in 360 feedback than the average man. Doesn't mean every woman is better than every man. Just means the average woman is seen as a better leader than the average man. Then number 2 is, women are harder on themselves than men. This is not a theory, it's a fact. Women tend to be too hard on themselves. One coaching I have for women more than men is, please don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. So when I teach my women's leadership program, this next 10 minutes is the 10 minutes women like the best. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share that with you. And the topic is, be happy and have a little bit less guilt. I guess if you'd rather be miserable and have more guilt, you shouldn't listen. But this is about being happy and have a little bit less guilt. So are we ready? We're going to have 4 rules to close. Number 1, for the next 10 minutes, you cannot try to be more productive. Don't try to be more productive. Number 2, you can't try to learn something. Number 3, for the next 10 minutes, you cannot think about becoming a better person. And then number 4, for 10 minutes, you cannot even consider helping others. I want you to spend 10 minutes and focus on one thing, your own happiness and self-acceptance. Just 10 minutes. I did this with a large group of about 1,000 women in India, and a few women just broke down. They didn't just start crying, they just lost it. Nobody ever gave them 10 minutes. Well, for 10 minutes, just focus on your own happiness, self-acceptance. Now, I'm a Buddhist. A good Buddhist tool to increase happiness is this. Every time I take a breath, it's a new me. So I want you to take a deep breath and think, It's a new me. It's a new me. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to think of all of those women that are your past, the previous me's, the previous yous. Then think about all of those women. Think of all the gifts they've given to you that's listening to me. Think about how hard they tried, and think about all they did to help others. If any group of women did that many nice things, what should you say to those good women? Thank you. So I want you to just bow your head and say, thank you. Thank all those good women that helped you in the past, those previous yous. Now, open your eyes. Open your eyes. Did those women make a little mistake or two? I think so. It's okay. Who's the first person we need to learn to forgive? Ourselves. I've asked thousands of mothers around the world this question. When my child grows up, I want my child to be. One word comes up from mothers more than every other word combined, no matter what country I'm in. What's that word? Happy. You want your kids to be happy? You want your parents to be happy? You want the people that love you to be happy? You want the women that respect your work to be happy? You go first. You be happy. I want you to think of one person who makes you feel bad, guilty, angry, or crazy. Just one. Just one. Makes you feel bad, guilty, angry, or crazy. Good. If you've got one, I have a question. How much sleep is that person losing over you tonight? Well, I've asked several thousand women that question, and the typical answer is 0. They're not losing any sleep over you. Now, I got another question. Who's being punished? And who is doing the punishing? The typical answer is me and me. Well, quit doing that to yourself. Let it go. A great Buddhist story. 2 monks are walking by the stream. And there's a woman by the stream, and she's crying. She has on a beautiful silk dress, and one monk comes over. He goes, "Why are you crying?" I have this beautiful dress, and I must cross the stream to get to the wedding. And if I cross the stream, I'm going to ruin my beautiful silk dress. I don't know what to do. One monk says, "Well, yeah, we can't help you. Can't even touch women." The other monk says, "Oh, to heck with the rules." Picks her up on the shoulder, carries her across the stream, and drops her off at the other side. She's so happy. "Thank you, good monk. Thank you." The monk is happy. He splashes back across the stream. The other monk is angry. "You're a bad monk, a terrible monk, a disgusting, bad monk." The wet monk says, "Why am I bad? We're not supposed to even touch women. You picked that woman up carrying her about, you bad monk. We have to save herself." Wet monk says, "Shit happens." They walk back to the home of monks, all the way back. Bad monk, bad monk. The wet monk drives off and goes to sleep. In the middle of the night, his colleague wakes him up and goes, "You're a bad monk." The sleepy monk says, "Why am I so bad?" The angry monk says, "Because you carried that woman." The sleepy monk said, "Oh, her? I only carried her across the stream. You carried her all the way back to the monastery." Well, most of the women I work with, you know what I say? You've been carrying some people around, don't make you happy. I can see them in your eyes. Leave them at the stream. Leave them at the stream. I was teaching the women's program at Goldman Sachs, and one of their top investment bankers raised her hand. She goes, excuse me. So I called on her. She says, yes. And she says, "Excuse me, can I submerge them in the stream?" Some final advice for the women listening to me right now. Pick a path. Pick a path through life. As much as you can, have that path come from your heart. It's your path. Any path that you pick through life has trade-offs. Make peace. Make peace with those trade-offs, and don't go through your life beating yourself over the head because you're not perfect. Show up for work. You do your best. You be a good human being, and make peace. You don't have to be a role model for every woman that ever lived in the past. Every woman that's going to live in the future. If you make a mistake, you're just a human being. You just show up. You do your best. You try to be a good person. Pick your path. Have it come from your heart. And as much as you can, make peace. Final advice. There's the farmer's final story. The farmer's rowing the boat up the big river. Looks upstream, and here comes another boat. The boat gets closer to his boat. The farmer is angry. He stands up. Be careful, you might hit my boat. It's such a big river. Be careful. Splat, the boat hits his boat. The farmer stands up and screams, "You fool, you idiot, you moron, how could you hit my boat? It's such a big river." He looks in the other boat. There's nobody in the boat. He's screaming at an empty boat that's just floating down the river. There's never anyone in the other boat. That person making you feel bad, guilty, angry, and crazy. Getting upset with them for being who they are makes as much sense as getting upset with your chair for being a chair. The chair cannot help but be a chair. That's what it is. Had that person's history, family, genes, and life, you would be that person. You don't have to like them or agree with them. Next time you think about them, nobody's in the boat. Nobody's in the boat. Now, my final coaching for you is going to be the best advice you're ever going to get. And it's not going to come from me. It's going to come from your heart. Take a breath and imagine you're 95 years old and you're just getting ready to die. Right before you take that last breath, you're given a beautiful gift. The ability to go back in time and talk to the woman who's listening to me right now. Help this woman be a better leader and, more important, have a happier life. What advice would you have? What advice would that old woman have for you? Well, some friends of mine interviewed old folks who are dying, got to ask them this question. What advice would you have? On the personal side, 3 themes. Theme number 1, 3 words. Be happy now. Not next week, not next month, not next year. Be happy now. Great Western disease, I'll be happy when. When I get the money, status, BMW, condominium, we'll have the same when. Learning point from old people. I got so busy chasing what I didn't have, I couldn't see what I did have. I had just about everything. Be happy now. Learning point number 2, friends and family. I'm sure you work for wonderful companies. When you're 95 and you look around your deathbed, none of your coworkers are going to be waving goodbye. You realize these friends and family, they're kind of important. They're the only people that care today. And number 3, if you have a dream, go for it. Because if you don't go for it when you're 35, you might not when you're 45. You probably won't when you're 85. And it doesn't have to be a big one, maybe a little one. Go to New Zealand, speak Spanish, play guitar. Other people think your dream is goofy. Who cares? It's not their dream, it's your dream. It's not their life, it's your life. Final advice on the business side, same thing. Have fun. Life is short. Do whatever you can do to help people, especially other women leaders or potential leaders. And the main reason to help these other people, other women, has nothing to do with money or status or getting ahead. It's much deeper. 95-year-old you is going to be proud of you because you did and disappointed if you don't. Final advice, go for it. The world's changing. The world of women leaders is changing. Do what you think is right. You may not win. At least you tried. I'm old, and old people like me, we almost never regret the risk we take and fail. We regret the risk we fail to take. And the final thing I'd like to say, it's been my honor to talk with you today. Hope you found our little session to be practical and useful and maybe help you have just a little bit better life. Just a little bit better life. Thank you very much.
Marshall, thank you so much. We have incredible comments coming through for you. Extreme gratitude from everybody. And what we're going to do, if it's okay with you, Marshall, is we're going to have everybody go into Facebook or LinkedIn and post their lingering questions. There were only a few, but we'll have them go there, and we will continue to interact online to answer those questions. So everybody, if you could, those links will be coming to you in the chat box. Visit the Facebook page or the LinkedIn page and post your questions. And when the webinar ends, you'll have an opportunity to give Marshall feedback and a testimonial. So we ask that you please take a moment to express your gratitude to him through that venue as well. I invite you all to enhance your experience of this year's summit by upgrading your access to the full or commemorative program so that you can listen to the session you missed or the one you're dying to hear again. And you'll also receive the slides of the sessions that have occurred during this summit. You'll receive additional opportunities to step forward and advance your leadership. And to do that, you can visit gwells.com/upgrade to find out more about those enhanced programs. Marshall, we are all so grateful to have your wisdom and your teaching here on this summit today. Before we wrap it up, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is please stop by my website, www.marshallgoldsmith.com, and I give everything away, so you can copy, share, download, duplicate all my materials, and I love getting emails. Send me an email. I always love getting emails. Just marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. And, you know, any thoughts, reflections you'd have for me, I always love to hear. Thank you very much. So, and again, my honor to work with you. Hope you found our time together to be valuable.
Thank you so much. And everybody, do take Marshall up on that. I have been sending him emails several times a year over the last several years, and he always responds. So I encourage you all to do that. Marshall, thank you so much, and thank you to all our summit participants. We will see you at the next session later today.
Thank you.